So this is potentially like my last day with this gorgeous 1963 Strat. I'm off to the London guitar show tomorrow, potentially swapping this for a different guitar. If you're one of the people that asked me if I was going to that show and I said no, I wasn't intending to until yesterday when something came up that I really saves me a lot of time doing it at the London show instead of going to do it where the guitar would otherwise be. So I apologise if you see me and I said I wasn't coming, but anyway, there weren't that many of you. So today I really need to make my mind up because I'm going to go and try this other guitar, completely different type of guitar, but I'll keep it a surprise in case I do come away with that. If you've been on the channel much recently, you know I've not fully bonded with this. It's a beautiful guitar, but what I need to answer today is how much do I love it? What's it really worth to me? How does it compare to my other Strats? Let's hear it first, because I mean ultimately that's the main point. I'm also going to take as many close-up photographs as I can. I'll show you a few of them. I'm starting to make guitars, and myself and the finisher want to have a record of, you know, actual real old guitars. So I'll show you a few of those just out of interest. So I'm going to be looking around the guitar just to see what really ages and what happens with these guitars. You can see how the pick guard has a very particular line down here, so I'm guessing, I don't know whether that's to do with the light, but someone out there must know why this happens. And they make recreations that look like that, like real celluloid ones like these, and they even will put a break here. Quite often it splits. My friend yesterday, who knows a lot more about these things, was telling me, because on his Strat, he's got a new master built, which is lovely, but all the screws look like they're in perfect alignment. But on this guitar, they're like, some of them are wonky, and apparently they would have been straight, but the pick guard, as it moves and shrinks and stretches in various places, actually moves the screws. So that's something you can recreate when you're sort of trying to age up your guitar. The other thing, if you notice, is after a certain time, they used real chrome on the bridge, but not the saddles and the jack. So the screws on the jack plate age, but not the actual thing, because I said to my mate who's got a nice Relics guitar, I said, oh, but this stuff is not aged at all. And actually on the real one, it's not really aged either. I mean, it's a bit scratched, but the screws have got that age. So if you're trying to recreate that, you can see what happens in reality here. Someone probably kept their finger near here or something on this particular saddle. You can also see what's really common is a divot. You'll get a lot of divots at the end here. It's just how people pick, and over time the plectrum probably is creating these marks. But what I find most fascinating is that this is not a museum piece. It's a good condition one, but you can see, even for someone who's really looked after it, what sort of damage. I'm going to get some real close-up photos and show you, so you can compare to relics. But there are real old ones that look like some of the relics, and people look at the relics and go, oh, that's not realistic. And then if you really look hard enough, you can find the original guitar that looks like that. So it is possible for all sorts of wear. The next thing I want to do is play one of my other Strats, which is almost a recreation of this that I had made by Case Guitars in the UK. Let's hear the sound difference. See on my headstock, the Fender decal or whatever logo is not in perfect condition. That's actually, although it's real like that, I would prefer if I could see the whole. I do worry that one day it's all going to come off, and you can find old vintage ones where some of this wording has come off and you just don't know what's going on, if it's real or whatever. The fretboard is in amazing condition on this one, but it does need a refret. See if I can get a good picture for that. So if you notice, a lot of damage that happens in real life is not as artistic looking as the relics. It's just dings and bashes. And the other thing which I've never seen on a relic is this sort of melting look. You see there, that's quite a lot round here, and I think it goes through that process before it starts to come off. So you can see this particular guitar has not been used anywhere near as much as some of the really old ones that I've, the ones of a similar age. So it's got a nice bit of quarter sawn maple here, a bit knotty, which is cool. None of the finish has really come off. It's smooth, but it's not. I mean, people complain about the way that Fender will just sort of take off all the finish on the back, which I think makes for nice playing, but it doesn't look that realistic. So this is that case Strat. I just wanted to have a quick look and talk about what I thought the differences were, and whether this could be my, my main Rosewood 3-tone burst, one of my top 5 dream guitars. I'm always going to have one that looks like this or the 63 in the house. I just, for the love of it, really, more than anything. This one is more resonant, richer, warmer sounding. With Strats, compared to like Les Pauls or ES guitars, I don't think that makes it a better guitar, because the Strat has a different character. It can be more airy, or it can be sort of more spanky sounding, or brighter, so just the fact that this is warmer and bigger sounding doesn't make it a better guitar. But it is a great guitar to me. I love it. And I think it sounds equally as good and plays better. It's newer. This is a proper slab board. Can you see there? Really thick slab, whereas the 63 is not the slab board. It's the year where they did the veneer, started the veneers. This one is only aged in as much as it has relicking, which, it has checking. I don't know how John Case does his checking. It looks great. It's very artistic. As with a lot of guitars, it's not realistic. It's too uniform, but I think he uses the cold method, where you freeze it and then warm it up, and so it does it naturally everywhere. On the actual vintage guitar, it's sporadic. It's bigger in certain places, wider, but there's nowhere near as much of it. But the more I play this, I'm intrigued to see how it's going to start aging. I mean, it hasn't really yet at all, but I love the look of it. It's a very artistic thing, and it sounds great. Just before I move on, I'm going to be just playing around with the pickups in here. These are JW Restoration pickups. Joel over in Baltimore, he's mainly a luthier, but he makes pickups, and these are real vintage style ones. But I've also got some of those Mark Foley, the one SRV style, so I'm going to put them in here and do a comparison for fun in a couple of weeks' time. Okay, now I wanted to hear the Waller Hardtail Strat, just for a completely different thing. Let's see how it compared. And all of this is going together to make my mind up as to whether having the 63 in the house is integral to like my musical journey, basically. We'll discuss that more in a second. Okay, to me this is one of the best looking guitars for me personally, I just love it. I love the wood. I love the fact that it's a very vintage looking HSS hardtail. It doesn't have a super Strat look. It really has a vintage look, but with something different. But it sounds very different. It plays very differently. I don't normally have it tuned down, so I did that today. The others were in Hendrix tuning, so I did the same. But it doesn't have. I don't think the strings were as big on this, so I need to change them if I'm going to stick to that tuning. But yeah, it's much more powerful in the pickup, so I had to turn the fuzz down from full on to almost full off. Otherwise it was just absolutely ripping everything apart. And it's not as sweet and warm sounding, but it has something else. It's massive sounding. Just an incredible guitar. And I'm going to be comparing some of my Strats in the mix as well soon. So this will obviously be in there. Completely different thing. This and the 63 and the case, well, the 63 and the case together don't compare with this. So this doesn't help me make my mind up, but it does show me that this is a completely different sound, and I don't have to worry about having this Strat as an extra one, if that makes sense. The other thing I want to say, if you've been watching over the last week, I'm back in love with this amp. It's mega. It's amazing. My big issue before was not realizing that I need to follow my ear more when it comes to changing the settings and just be as extreme with the settings as I need to be. This is for the Waller Strat, and I changed it a bit compared to the 63, where I had that gain had to be turned up more. The bass could be up a little bit more. The Waller was much heavier in the bass, so I turned it down. So yeah, it does. You've got to listen to yourself. Right, let's get that 63 back out and make a last decision on it. It's not an easy thing to decide. For some of you, you'd probably think I'm focusing on the wrong thing, but I'm making these videos to be interesting, entertaining, just to show you my journey. This doesn't preoccupy my thoughts all the time. Of course it doesn't. I mean, I spent all of yesterday playing and practicing to backing tracks and enjoying that. I don't spend my time just thinking about this, but I'm trying to turn my journey into videos. And so it looks like I focus on these things a lot. Just today, this could be the last day I have this guitar. So really going off to the London Guitar Show tomorrow and trying a different guitar in that heat of the moment, I want to make sure I give this guitar enough respect and thought to know whether the other one I'm looking at is something that's better for me or not. Because I've made quite a lot of decisions with these vintage guitars where I end up chopping and changing because I'm thinking more with my heart than my head, and it needs to be a bit more of a mix of both. I really wanted a 3-tone burst Strat, so I got one. And I tried 5 or 6, not 50 or 60. So I'm not super experienced. But here's my decision for today before I go off tomorrow and then let you know what happened. I think there will be a 60-something Strat in my life again if this one goes. I'll probably miss out on the investment element. If I kept this for 5 years, I bet I could get 35 grand. I paid 26. And that's one element of it. Obviously, for the music, it's not important, but obviously making that sort of investment is good in your life. But the other guitar that I'm looking at, which is a headstock brake guitar, so that might tell you what make it is, probably not as good of an investment. But what if it ends up being my main guitar for the next 2, 3, 4 decades? So it's definitely worth making a really informed decision. Anyway, let's finish by saying this. If this one goes, it won't affect me musically as much as it will sort of artistically and academically. I love these guitars. It's one of my top 5 guitars, basically. If I quickly told you, Blackguard tellies, bursts, 55, 355 or 35, should I say? Well, that's a 45, but you know what I mean. So 1, 2, 3. Yeah, this Strat. I don't even know what the 5th one would be. So top 4. It's one of my top 4 guitars, and it would be amazing if I could keep it and still get the other thing that I'm looking at. But right now I can't do that. So musically, as I said, it won't affect me. I can use the case Strat for all things early 60s Strat. Like if I want to do SRV style, as I said, I'm going to put those pickups in there. You can hear I'm prevaricating now. because it's an important decision to make. And if you, like, I can feel like a slight prickly sweat as I think about it. But the fact I'm thinking about it so much means this may not be the right thing for me. I'd love to know what you think down in the comments of how it sounded, because I tell myself, oh, this is a good 63, but not an amazing one. And maybe that's just me trying to tell myself, okay, I can move on to something else. And, you know, because obviously I do enjoy having different guitars and vintage guitars around. It's fun. Yeah, this is quite revealing, isn't it? I hope you can all see that I'm just very open with my journey, and yeah, I do appreciate most of you are very friendly in the comments and understand what I'm doing here. I reveal myself, my mistakes, my journey, my thoughts, when, you know, a lot of other people go through all this and no one ever knows. But I think this is part of the fun. Overall, whether I let this guitar go or not is not going to affect me in my progress, you know, learning to play better, becoming a musician, you know, hopefully playing live starting in a year or two's time. This is not going to affect that. I've got loads of amazing instruments. I'm very lucky. And as my guitar teacher said to me yesterday, as long as you're enjoying it, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter whether it's a 63 Strat or a new player Strat or anything in between, something with humbuckers, something not with humbuckers, whatever you think sounds good, whatever makes you play, whatever makes you feel good. And these are all things, you know, I think to myself all the time. It's good to hear them confirmed from someone who's really in the biz, that ultimately the important thing is you're having fun. It doesn't have to be a big drama, but yeah, the geeky side of me enjoys discussing all these things. The musical side of me wants to just settle down, and I'm thinking of a challenge for myself. Well, I call it a challenge. I want to know what you think of this one, actually. I thought I might spend a month on the channel, just one guitar, one amp, 2 pedals or 3 pedals, not allowed to change, and do like a twice weekly vlog showing my progress and what I'm learning. And so you won't get any gear videos in that time, but you will see what happens. And I thought of doing a video where, you know, I'd try a few licks and see how they improve over, say, 3 hours of practice or whatever, more vloggy style. But yeah, I've been intrigued to know what you think. Anyway,